Within this frozen world, I'm able to walk freely and unnoticed.
After a hard breakup with his girlfriend, Ben, a young man of 25 with a boyish face, gets the superpower to freeze time by cracking his fingers. Of course, he uses it to undress women and perform his favorite activity, drawing and making their nude portraits. But things weren't always that way for Ben. Let's see how it all began. 5 weeks earlier, we see him arguing with his girlfriend Susie, who calls him a loser. He's had enough and breaks up with her. This enrages Susie even more, and she starts throwing things at him. After the breakup, Susie quickly moves on and finds comfort in another guy. Ben notices them together at the cafe and wonders if she ever really loved him, given how quickly she's moved on. His buddy, Sean, tells him to forget her and move on too. Ben says he couldn't make her happy anyway, because she always thought the grass was greener elsewhere. So Sean advises him to go out with the hottest girls to make her jealous. However, Sean's success with the ladies was quite impressive. So, to distract himself, Ben joins art classes. He's been interested in making portraits since he was a child, effortlessly creating beautiful and surprising paintings. But once night falls, things become extremely difficult for Ben. He can't stop thinking about his breakup, because every time he closes his eyes, he sees memories of his ex-girlfriend, and it's impossible for him to sleep. Days go by, and Ben still can't get a wink of sleep at night, even for an hour. Memories of his girlfriend have turned him into a depressive manic. Overcome by regret and pain, Ben calls Susie and begs her to come back. He also apologizes for ruining their relationship, promising never to do it again. But despite the fact that Ben went to the mat for her,
Have you slept with him?
Yes.
Susie refuses his request and hangs up the call. After that, Ben flew into an even deeper abyss of despair. If only he could freeze the time and watch some boobs. Over the next few days, he does his best to pass the time. He reads books, watches movies, and even takes solo trips to other cities. However, as soon as night falls, insomnia sets in, and it becomes difficult for him to concentrate on anything else. One night, he heads to a supermarket where he notices a job advertisement for night staff. Ben thinks it's the perfect opportunity to fill those extra 8 hours and earn some money. So he immediately applied for the job. The next day, he gets an interview with manager Jenkins and finally gets the job. Ben is finally happy after a long time and feels that his life is about to change. He gets used to his new job and notices how his colleagues handle the art of passing the time differently. As a cashier, Sharon makes sure she always hides the clock with various objects. She believes that time will pass more slowly if she looks at it. Then there's Barry Brickman, who's never serious at work, and his friend, Matt Stevens. They play various pranks on the customers, like slipping an adult toy into their purse. Some of the customers are puzzled when they find it, but some decide to keep it. The only guy who doesn't seem to mind the time is their boss, Jenkins. He can go on and on, touting his body and wealth. Ben's most unusual way of passing the time in the throes of his deep melancholy. He dissociates himself from time and reality. In other words, he uses his superpowers to freeze time and eventually his environment so he can do whatever he wants. Normally, one would be tempted to steal money, but Ben just wants to perfect his artistic skills because he's in admiration of the female body. He chooses random clients, gently undresses them, and draws their portraits. Ben has no lustful feelings towards her. He just wants to make sure his passion for art never dies. Of course, Ben. Once he's finished, Ben puts their clothes back on and cracks his fingers, and time starts to flow again. This has become Ben's life. Now, it's not something he's proud of, but at least he's no longer depressed or crazy. Slowly but surely, he began to forget Susie. At home, Ben often hangs out with his best friend. The two have been friends since childhood. Sean is exactly the opposite of Ben, as all he's interested in is getting into girls' panties. It's revealed that he's been to every strip club in town. One night, during his night shift, Ben meets cashier Sharon in the locker room. He seems to have a crush on her, but doesn't have the courage to tell her. The two have a rather special time together for Ben. After a while he's going about his work, Matt suddenly emerges from one of the stalls and reveals that he's invited Sharon to the movies. This devastates Ben, who wonders why he's so unlucky. He then remembers those school days when he first fell in love. She was the smartest girl in the class and everyone loved her. One day she had an accident and sprained her arm, so she had to wear a heavy cast every day. Her classmates used to write encouraging things on it to make her feel better. Ben also wanted to write something, but he was too nervous to even approach her. A few days later, the girl took off her cast. Everyone was happy to have her fully restored. But when they noticed she'd grown hair on that arm, they started making fun of her. The girl starts crying, and that's when Ben decides to step in. He takes her into a corner and consoles her, saying he'll always be there for her. Soon, the two become good friends and eventually lovers. One day, the girl suddenly approaches Ben and asks if he wants to kiss her. Without thinking twice, he says yes, and the two agree to meet at their favorite spot the weekend. Ben is so happy because he's about to kiss a girl for the first time. He loses sleep for the next few days, and when the weekend finally arrives, he gets to the place early. He waits all day, but the girl doesn't come, and it breaks his heart. The next day, at school, he learns that the girl has moved to another town with her parents. It's the first time he's felt helpless and depressed. In the present, Jenkins gathers all the employees and tells them they're going to play a friendly game of soccer with his friends. Ben and the others don't want to play. They had no other choice during the game. The supermarket team loses badly because none of them knows how to play. The opposing team accelerates and scores goal after goal. When Ben has had enough, he freezes time and heads for the changing rooms to relax. Suddenly, a guy moves and runs off. This reveals to Ben that he's not the only one with this ability. After a while, he comes out and snaps his fingers in the heat of the moment Matt Tier and Jenkins catches the ball in the face. He's immediately taken to hospital and everyone else goes home, leaving Ben and Sharon alone in the next scene. The two stop for coffee. Ben learns that she is in fact single and that Matt was telling the truth. She then shares her dreams with Ben, and he does the same. Sharon says she's always wanted to meet a painter because she imagines they can see the true beauty in things. As they talk, it's clear there's chemistry between them. After their unofficial date, Ben drives her home and awkwardly ruins their first kiss by pecking her on the cheek when she wanted him on the mouth. The next day, Jenkins announces that he's going to throw a party for his birthday. Sharon asks Ben if he'd like to come with her to the party, and he happily accepts. Later, Jenkins calls the boys to his office and assigns them separate tasks. For his birthday preparations, Ben is in charge of hiring a dancer for the party. So he asks his best buddy for help, promising to take him to the party. The two then head to a local club where Sean uses his experience and hires a girl for the party. The next morning, Ben receives a call from an anonymous man who claims to be an art lover and has an art gallery in town and wants to exhibit some of Ben's work there. This makes him happy because for the first time in his life, someone has appreciated his art. But unbeknownst to him, it turns out it was just a Barrelet Matt prank. That night, Ben gets dressed for the party and heads over to Sharon's house. The two head to the party, and when they arrive, the party is already underway. Sean gets flunked by a girl. Matt and Barry are dancing like sociopaths, and Jenkins is the DJ. Just then, Ben notices that his ex-girlfriend, Susie, is among the attendees. She's now Jenkins' brother's girlfriend. Then the dancer arrives and heats up the party. Ben heads for the bathroom and bumps into Susie without missing a beat. She tells him she wants them to make up and become a couple again. Ben, of course, doesn't want this, because he's already met the love of his life. But Susie continues to insist. She even kisses him forcibly, and Ben immediately pushes her away. But when he turns around, he realizes that Sharon has witnessed the whole incident, and she takes off running. Ben goes straight to Sharon's apartment and tries to explain everything to her, but she's too blinded by her anger. When she starts hurling obscenities, Ben gets angry and leaves because of his new breakup. Ben plunges back into his world of depression and insomnia. He has just lost the girl who brought him out of his dark world. In the next scene, Ben takes some of his best works of art to the gallery, but the gallery owner denies having made an appointment with him, making Ben realize that he's been duped by Barry and Matt. As he's about to leave, the owner notices some of his sketches of Sharon and asks to take a look. No surprise. He loves them, and Ben is offered a night to show his work in the gallery. A few days later, Sharon receives an official invitation to Ben's art show. Although she's angry with him, she decides to visit the gallery. When she arrives, she is surprised to see that the artwork represents her. It turns out that Ben has stopped doing portraits of other women, and he's been spending all his time on Sharon. She was the love of his life, and he couldn't look at any other woman but her.
But how does he know exactly what my nipples look like?
He tries to explain what happened the night of the party, but Sharon says he doesn't have to. She's now realized how much he loves her just by looking at his paintings. The two share a romantic kiss in the middle of the art gallery room. In the final scene, Ben uses his powers and freezes everyone up. This time, even Sharon can move in the frozen world. The two then step out into the snow, where millions of snowflakes hang in the air. Finally, the lovebirds kiss once more, and the film ends on a happy note.